Hey guys, today I'll be reviewing the LEGO Icons Land Rover Defender 90. Now as you can see, you got 3 different versions that you can have of this Land Rover. So you have the Expedition model, which is what I'll be reviewing first. You got the bold version A with the turbo diesel engine, and you also have the very base model, which is the sleek version B. And in this video, I'm going to be reviewing all 3 of these models, as well as the design, what I like about this build, what I don't like about it, and at the end of this video, I'm going to give a final verdict on what I think of this LEGO set. But anyway, let's get straight into the review. Alright, so let's start this review by talking about the design here at the front. So obviously you've got a huge bumper just here, which I think looks really cool. I like how they've managed to curve it. I think that makes the bumper look even more realistic. You've also got a winch here, which is essential for off-roading, but I'll move on to this a bit later. But if you look from the side angle of this Jeep, you can see that the winch system does protrude out quite a bit. So I think that makes the bumper look, I don't know, a bit weird, but it's not a massive fault. You've also got stickers on the hood here, which say Defender. But if you look closely, you can see that the stickers are a slightly darker shade than the overall color of this build. And that's something that I think LEGO could have paid a bit more attention to. Coming along the side of the Defender, you can see that you've got a spare wheel and some tools on the hood here. And I think they look really cool. And the fact that LEGO managed to angle the tools, I think that looks really realistic. You've also got some rugged running boards here, which I think are a nice addition to the Expedition kit. You also have these tools on either side, and also a panel, which I think are a nice addition. Now we go on to the design at the back. So you got this ladder here to get up to the rack on the top of the roof. And you also have this fire extinguisher here, which I think looks really cool, and LEGO did a great job on designing it. And lastly, you got a snorkel air intake, which makes this Jeep look really cool. Alright, now we come on to the design and elements of the roof rack. So as you can see, this roof rack is super large, and it makes the whole Defender look even meaner. You have some extra round lights at the top here for nighttime driving, and you also have some at the back as well. Now we come on to the elements that you can put on top of the rack. So you got here, I'm presuming, some bottles of fuel in case you run out of diesel fuel while off-roading and you need to fill up your tank. You got a functioning toolbox here, and when you open it, you can see all the tools inside. And I think the mechanism of this is really smooth, and I've done a great job on designing it. And you also have a steel jack here, and as you can see, it is functional, just like that. And this is essentially used to lift up your Jeep in case there's any damage underneath it. And I think LEGO did a great job on designing this. And just the mechanism on it, I mean, it's really smooth. Alright, so that's pretty much the end of the review for the Expedition model. Overall, I think LEGO did a great job on making accessories and all the extra tools to make this Land Rover look like a fully built off-roader. Alright, now let's move on to the review of the version A. Alright, now we come on to the review of the bold version A model. Now immediately you can see all the curves along the side and at the front here, and you can just tell that Lego have done a really good job on designing this build and making it look like a classic Land Rover Defender. Alright, now I'm actually gonna review the whole exterior and also the interior of this model, as the previous model, the Expedition model, was just an additional option, whereas this is essentially the base model that your instructions would finish with. But anyway, now let's move on to the engine, as this is the only main difference between this and the sleek version B model. Alright, so if I open up the hood, just like that, you can now see that you got a turbo diesel engine, and that's what gives the hood this bulge on top of it. Now this engine is actually very detailed, so you got like a wire here, you can see you got a fan, and actually this rubber band here moves the fan like that, which I think is a really cool feature. You got your engine cover here, and you also have some caps here for design. And you can also see that you got some more design elements just down in there as well. Alright, so let's continue the design review by talking about the front. Now as you can see, you've got a license plate, whereas the Expedition model didn't have that. I really like how Lego have designed the headlights with the huge round headlights there, and the little small ones on the sides of them. I like the slick grille and the little Land Rover badge on there. I think that makes it look even more realistic. And yeah, overall, the front of this Jeep looks really nice, and I give props to Lego for making a really good model with a great design at the front here. Moving along the side, you can see that Lego have gotten rid of the running boards here for the version A model. You got your door mirrors there. Again, very nicely designed. But there is one thing that does my head in. So this sticker here, you can see that again, if you look really closely, it's a slightly darker shade than the overall color of this Jeep. And also, you can see there's a decent gap between the end of the sticker and the bottom of the windshield. And I think Lego could have done that bit of effort to make this sticker go all the way down to the bottom. I also really like these windows. I like how Lego have made a black outline for them. I think that makes them stand out even more, and it just suits this Jeep. And yeah, overall, the side of this Land Rover Defender looks really nice. Coming along the back, you can see that you got your exhaust pipe here, and I think Lego have done a great job on making it fit really nicely with this slanted piece here and the bumper. You got your classic tiny headlights that the original Defenders had, and you also have a yellow license plate there. And again, you have your Land Rover badge just here. And you also have a tow here, as well as a spare wheel. Alright, now we come on to the design of the interior, because I think that's my favorite part of this Lego set. So the doors open nice and wide, and you can see on the inside of the doors, you got your black door handles and some really nice tiles to make it look very smooth. I also like the seats. I think Lego did a great job on making them really nicely rounded, and that gives it that even more realistic look to them. You got a bit of storage area just there, and I guess you have a handle there for when you're going over a big bump and you need extra support. Coming along the other side of the interior, you can see you've got a functional steering wheel. I'll move on to that a bit later. You got some pedals here, which I think make the whole interior even more realistic. You can see that you've got your speed dials behind the steering wheel there. And you also have a coffee cup there and a handbrake, which I think looks really cool and makes the interior the next bit of realism. And lastly, you've got a gear stick here to mimic the four-wheel drive system. And you also have some fans there, and right inside there you got your radio. And lastly, you also got your mirror here, and I like how they've designed the mirror so it looks really thin and suits the genre of an old car. Alright, now we come on to the passenger area of this Land Rover Defender. So as you can see, this door opens nice and wide, and now you can see you got some really nicely tiled seats for the passengers to sit in while you're driving. Alright, so that's pretty much the end of the review for this Bulge version A model. Overall, I think it's an awesome build. But anyway, now let's move on to the version B model. Alright, so finally, we come on to the final version of the Land Rover Defender. So this is the sleek version B model, and as you can see, the only difference that this has compared to the Bulge version A model is that there's no bulge on the hood here. So now it's perfectly smooth, and actually I think it looks better without the bulge. But let me know what you think in the comments. Actually, now we come on to the functions of this Land Rover Defender 90. Now I forgot to mention that at the start of this video. But anyway, now let's move on to all the functions that this amazing model has. Alright, so let's start with the opening and closing of the doors. So as you can see, it's a really nice and smooth action. And the use of these 1x2 slanted tiles make the door open and close really nicely. I mean, look at that. And that is just so satisfying. Now we come on to the suspension. And this is actually my favorite feature of this Land Rover Defender. So as you can see, the suspension is very nice and bouncy. And you got full independent suspension at the front and rear. Alright, now let's see how the suspension works. So as you can see, you got two large beams on the outside, and you also have two smaller ones on the inside supporting it too. And that's what gives this Land Rover Defender's suspension the wiggle and the full independent suspension. And you can actually see that it's really firm. I mean, it's secured really firmly and nicely, which means that it can go over decent bumps too, which I think is what a Land Rover Defender is meant to do. Now we come to an opening hood, and again, it's really smooth. I mean, the hinges are really nicely damped. Like, they're not too tight so that the hood doesn't close, but they're not too loose either so that it closes straight away as soon as you open it. And you also have this stand here which supports the hood while you're fixing the engine. And I actually think it's really compact and flexible, so good job to Lego for designing that. Alright, now we come on to the last two functions of this Land Rover Defender. And these are actually the two main letdowns for me of this build. Alright, so let's start with the winch. Now I'm actually going to demonstrate it with this whole section on, because that's how you're most of the time going to use it. Alright, so as you can see, the knob here to control the winch is actually almost hitting the bumpers here, which means that will be hard to turn it. And you're right, because look at this, you've got to do loads of tiny little turns until the winch starts to extend. And that's the same for retracting it. See, it just takes forever. So that's why the winch is something that I don't like about this Land Rover Defender, and I think Lego could have maybe designed it so it's easier to function. Alright, now you come on to the last function of this Land Rover Defender, and that is the steering. Now I'm actually going to take off this roof so I can control the steering wheel better. Alright, so as you can see, I'm turning the steering wheel, and you can see just how much I've got to turn it before the front wheels start to turn. And that's mainly due to the 4 gears here linked to the steering system. And I actually find these 4 gears a bit unnecessary, because I know that Lego have done great steering systems in the past with only 2 gears. So that's why the steering on this Land Rover Defender is a huge letdown for me. And I actually found that pushing the front wheels instead of using the steering wheel is a lot better if you want to turn. Alright, so that's pretty much the end of my review on the Land Rover Classic Defender 90. Overall, I think it is a fantastic model. It's got loads of detail, an amazing design, and plenty of functions. It's just that the steering and wind systems had to be the only 2 letdowns of this model for me, and for their sake, that's why my final verdict on this build is a 9.5 out of 10. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel so I know you like these type of videos, and I'll see you later. Thank you all for watching.